Right, hello everybody, welcome to the Wednesday Bike Club. It's a beautiful day, blimey, we really got to make the most of this weather, innit? I'm sure we're gonna get a cold snap. You always do, don't you, this time of year? When you're still sort of in April, there's still potential to get a bit of a cold snap, but we shall see. But what are we talking about today? Well, just a couple of subjects really. The first one really, and it sort of stems from having this bike for a couple of weeks. So I've got the Enfield Bear 650, which I'm absolutely loving, I've got to say. I'm really enjoying this bike a lot. Spoiler alert for next Saturday's sort of proper look at it. But it made me think, you know, these bikes, about how we label them, you know, how manufacturers and that sort of get us interested in it by giving it a, you know, as if it's in one type of genre, and when you actually get on the bike, you think, oh, I wouldn't want to go off-road on that. You know, you get that sort of thing. It's, you know, it's the same with the adventure bikes, isn't it? It's such a, if you put your bike, it doesn't matter what it is, if you put your bike in that adventure category, it sort of opens it up to a whole new customer base, doesn't it? And I think sometimes people might get a little bit the wrong impression, think, that bike, that, you know, that Honda Goldwing is not really an adventure bike. I said it's the adventure version. It's a bit like that, isn't it? So I thought it'd be interesting to talk about that. And then the other bit I'd just have a quick chat about was, you know, drink riding, and how it's a bit more possible now with the advent of zero alcohol drinks, basically. And it's just something that sort of tickled my interest, and I thought maybe just chat about it. So let's find a nice spot on this lovely day and have a little chat. Come on. So what the hell am I talking about? I suppose we have this odd thing that we have, we like to put things into a box, don't we? We like to put things in a category. And I think sometimes we muddy the waters a bit too much, really, because if you're new to biking, I suppose, then it doesn't make a great deal of difference to you, because you just accept what's there, and that's what you call a scrambler, let's say. Because when you look at beautiful bikes like this, and without a doubt, it is a fantastic bike, and I really love riding it. But by calling it a scrambler, and we have the same issue, don't we? You know, I like my Stonello, and say the BSA Scrambler, and those sort of bikes. It's that people of my age group think of scramblers as, I suppose, pretty much, you know, motocross bikes. We think of a scrambler or a motocross bike, which is ultralight, you know, revvy, two strokes and that sort of stuff. And then when you're presented with a bike like this, you think, whoa, I don't think I want to take that off-road. And I think that's the problem with it. You know, to go near off-road with a bike like this, you've got to be slightly masochistic, or just, you know, not quite all there, I think, because to point this at a load of gravel is sort of like caught in disaster, isn't it, really? And I think I sort of remembered this from the days when I had my Honda NC750X, because, you know, you had the Honda NC750 and the 700, which were those sort of like archetypal, it was sort of like courier bikes, weren't they? They were your dispatch riding bikes. They were sort of like the replacement for the old Maggot, weren't they? The 500CX, wasn't it? Which was a fantastic, but what a great engine that was. It's a shame they didn't still do that. But by just sticking an X on there, didn't make it an adventure bike. And this is where we come into this thing about adventure bikes, isn't it? Because adventure bikes are, I suppose we think of those sort of archetypal adventure bikes like the GS and stuff like that. And we sort of think, well, if we just give anything a look like a GS, or, you know, that sort of, you know, big mud guards and upright suspension and the rest of it, we think, well, that's what it is. But it's not, is it? It just, by sticking an X in there, doesn't make it an adventure bike. And, you know, at the end of the day, what the hell is an adventure bike anyway? And what's made me think about this a little bit is because of the suspension. To me, it's all about suspension. Riding this bike for the first time, when I picked this, I whizzed up to Silverstone to Spider Motorcycles, because they're the fleet managers for Enfield and Piaggio and that. And as soon as I got on it and did a few little, they were doing a lot of road works actually around the actual Silverstone circuit area, because it's based there. I instantly remembered how hard the suspension was on this bike. And this isn't, hard compared to a lot of them. When I think of my Stonello, how I sort of go on about how hard the suspension is on that. The thought about taking it on road sometimes sort of fills me a bit of dread, let alone off road, because it's so rock hard. And I don't really understand the theory behind why you would have a bike like this, give it that scrambler sort of look and all the rest of it, but make it ride like almost like a sports bike. You think, geez, the suspension's like concrete, and I can't really fathom that. And you sort of think, why can't we produce bikes like this, but give them a real magic carpet ride? Why do we have to go down that route of giving bikes, really hard suspension? Because in the UK now, we're riding roads which are more like dirt tracks every day. Our major roads are just like, it's like being in a war zone, and I don't say that lightly, because you think, geez, the bikes we're being given, which are fantastic, I still think this is a phenomenal piece of kit. They're slowly, we're sort of going to, if we're not careful, we're going to turn against bikes like this, because the roads in the UK will just not be able to cope with them. So you sort of think, well, what are we doing with these sort of naming these bikes and putting them into categories where I don't think they quite really belong. I think we should be sort of more upfront with this sort of bike, and sort of say, it's a scrambler style. The problem is it's difficult to change these abbreviations. It's a classic bike in a scrambler style. It's not a scrambler. It's something else, isn't it? It's like the NC750X. It's not an adventure bike. It's a touring bike in an adventure style. But I'd even question whether they were really touring bikes, because when you think of like classic touring bikes, like an RT or a Honda Goldwing, you think, I keep wanting to say Goldwing. They are touring bikes. The way that they ride, the suspension is magic carpet like, and it's designed to be like, supposed to be as comfortable as possible on a long ride. But you wouldn't think about putting, having a Honda Goldwing X, would you, to take it off road? I suppose somebody would, because it just wouldn't do it. And I think we have this, but it's the by putting off-road tyres on your Ford Focus doesn't make it a sports utility vehicle, does it? It just doesn't. And I think that's the thing. But are we going down that car route where we had your real off-road vehicles were your Land Rovers and your Land Cruisers, but because we like that style, what we've done, we started to create this whole world of SUVs, which they're not really sports utility vehicles, are they? They're not really designed to go off-road, other than they might have a slightly better ground clearance, let's say. But they're not, the suspension's not really set up to do that. And I think, are we in danger of doing the same thing with motorbikes? We're creating these genres of vehicles which they just look like they'll do the part, but they won't really do it. And when you do want something that will really do that job, you've got to pay up for it. You're buying like the Africa Twins and stuff like that. But even then, they're in a sort of odd world, aren't they? These ultra heavy bikes. So do you think we're sort of fooling ourselves a little bit in this motorbiking world, that we're prepared to accept that sort of mishmash of descriptions and things about bikes when we go there, and we realise that if you say to somebody, well, I've just bought a scrambler, but they are proper, they do off-roading for a living, let's say, and they come out and look at your bike and go, Jesus, I wouldn't go off-road on that. That's the thing, isn't it? it's such a strange world, isn't it? We live in with motorbikes. It's a real. There's so many contradictions in this sort of in this line of life, and you sort of think, there's so many blurred lines. You're not quite sure what it is you're buying anymore. And I think because so often we buy with our eyes, don't we? We'll see the advertising of bikes like this, and we'll see them screaming across the dirt, and we think, whoa, that's, you know. But these guys that are riding, these guys and gals that are riding these bikes in the adverts they're extremely talented. They're phenomenal riders, and they can throw a Honda Gullwing at a desert and get away with it. But we can't really do that. It doesn't really work, does it? So we are buying into a lifestyle. I think companies, and particularly bikes in particular, they're really selling you a lifestyle, aren't they? Which is nothing wrong with it. And I'm well into that. I'm well in there. You know, and I would have this bike because I want that look. I'm after that look. But sometimes I would like a little bit more, that it will do a bit more than that, you know. The first gravel car park I come to, and I put my foot down, and it's a funny camber. I don't want to be scrabbling around thinking, oh, this is going to go. Because I must say, this feels incredibly heavy, even just to move on a nice tarmac car park. It feels a very heavy bike to move around. And I will do, on Saturday's episode, I'm going to do comparisons with the Gold Star and my Stornello and the Triumphs and stuff, and tell you where I think this sort of fits in. Because I think we have to have a certain amount of caution when we go to buy bikes that we think are going to do something, and they will do one thing and they do another. They might do it incredibly well, but I think we have to take these labels and descriptions of the bikes that we're buying, that we see on YouTube and the advertising, all the rest of it. We should take that with a pinch of salt, because you sort of think, I don't think a professional off-roader would take one of these up a mountain. I think they might customize a bike or have something which is ultra light, designed for that one job. We're always looking for something that's, you know, if we have one or two bikes, if we're really lucky, we need it to do a lot of things, don't we? And they tend to do a lot of things okay, but nothing outstandingly, apart from look the part. And I think this does look the part. I think it's a fab bike, and I'm really enjoying the ride on this. I'm really enjoying it. I've put quite a few hundred miles on this bike now, and I've enjoyed all of them, to be honest with you. Certainly more, you know, in this scrambler world than the Stornello. I think it rides far better than the Stornello in that respect, from its suspension characteristics. But it still suffers with some of those traits which the Stornello does. But then I love the Stornello, so you forgive them, don't you? You forgive them those little issues you have. Yeah. What do you think about this bike labelling? As we've got an adventure bike, a calf racer, a tourer, a roadster, an adventure bike, and another adventure bike going past. Well, isn't it? You see, it's funny how we're all so different. We all want different things out of our bikes, don't we? You know, we all want something different. And then we get a Harley going the other ways, and a really big Harley. It's fantastic. The weather's so lovely that we're getting these. I mean, everybody gets something different out of their bike, don't they? Isn't it? What a fantastic hobby motorbiking is. It's just amazing. Anyway, I've rabbited on enough about that. Give me your thoughts about that on how we label bikes, and should we be a bit more cautious, and is it just in, you know, buyer beware, or should we trust the advertising that we see in that respect? So the other thing, it was just a quick thing actually. It was about you'll see it in the thumbnail, you know, drinking and riding. And I'm not a drinker. You know, when I'm in France, I might have some wine, and, you know, when I'm out with a mate, I might have a beer and all the rest of it. But I won't be driving. But what I found recently is how and we don't tend to think of pubs and bikes anymore, is it? We've gone down this sort of cafe culture a little bit, haven't we, with the motorbiking, that we think we don't go out to a pub, we go out for a coffee. And I think that's probably so much because it's and quite rightly, you know, drinking and driving, drinking and riding is just something you don't want to do. But what I found quite interesting is that I've started drinking Guinness Zero, and even when I'm not driving, I still drink Guinness Zero. And the reason for that is because the taste of those alcohol-free alternatives is so damn good now. And we were out the other day. We'd gone to a pub. I had to repair my Mini, and we were clearing out the garage because I got so much stuff in the garage. We were clearing it out and throwing it away. And Karen said, "Oh, come on, I'll take you up. Well, I'll buy you a drink." And it wasn't going to be an alcoholic drink, but I thought, well, I'll have a Guinness Zero. That's fine. And we went to a place in Curdford, this little pub. It was beautifully quiet. It was a lovely evening, and they had the Heineken Zero there. They're fantastic. Can you remember back in the day, all we had of alcohol alternatives was going to be, you know, an orange juice or Coca-Cola, wasn't it? Or it was going to be, was it Caliber? Do you remember Caliber? And they were like his water. They were just horrible. And now the drinks manufacturers are, or drinks brewers, if you like. I don't think there's a lot of brewing going on in drinks these days. They're producing these alcohol-free alternatives, which has suddenly made me realise that, well, you know what, I can actually go to a pub now, and I can enjoy a drink, but it's not going to be an issue. I'm not going to get drunk. I'm not going to lose some of my faculties. I can enjoy a drink now when I go out on the bike. Not that I'm going to do it on a regular basis, because the problem I see with it is the cost. You would think that, you know, that governments and for your health and all the rest of it, that, you know, alcohol-free alternatives to drinking when you're going to a pub would be championed, wouldn't it, by governments? You think, what a great idea. But I bought, I knew what we were buying was expensive, but I then bought, I had a pint of this Heineken Zero on its own. It was fantastic. On a sunny day, it was really refreshing. And then there was no funny aftertaste. But then I had another one. I thought, oh, I'll have another one anyway, because the first one went down so well. And I had a splash of lime in it, and it was fantastic. But that was £6.50. I don't know whether that's just southern costs, but £6.50 for a pint of zero alcohol lager with a splash of lime in it. And you do think, wow, that's a bit tasty, isn't it? And you think that what's interesting is that there's no duty on that drink, the same as Coca-Cola and the rest of it, as you would find on an alcohol, because there's no spirits in it, there's no alcohol in it, so there's no duty on it. Now I know that the brewers say, well, it costs more to extract the alcohol, blah blah blah, but I can't really believe that they actually brew, say, a normal Heineken and then they take the alcohol out of it. I think they've worked out how to brew it without alcohol in there. Probably, I'm probably completely wrong in that. I'm not a beer brewer, but there's certain talk around that there is a premium to be paid for that, and the brewers are in a honeymoon period at the moment because they're probably making a lot more money out of the alcohol-free stuff than they are on the normal beer. Because if you're not paying the duty on it, then that's got to be a win-win, hasn't it, for both, for the brewer and the pub. But it did make me think that, you know, if you end up brewing drinks, because I think there's something like 1,400 alcohol-free drinks in the UK now, and that they're getting the taste so right that you would think, well, are we seeing the end of alcohol being served in pubs? Will that change, do you think? But it made me think, you know, I love this sort of stuff, and it made me think deeper that if you can make those drinks so good, you know, because you get the alcohol-free gins and stuff like that, didn't you? But the beers in particular and the Guinness, I can't tell the difference. And I was a big Guinness drinker. I still drink a lot of Guinness, but, you know, I can't tell the difference really. Probably not in a blind tasting. So you sort of think, well, if you made it so good, you're going to have this. I likened it to electric cars, right? Is that you'll get to a point, well, if if the alcohol-free drinks market starts to outsell the alcohol included drinks market, is that the government will lose all that revenue because there's no duty being paid. So you think, well, it's a bit like the electric cars, is that you get people buying electric cars, oh, we're losing tax revenue because there's no road tax. We've got to put the road tax onto electric cars now. And it'd be like that, wouldn't it? You'll end up with an expensive, alcohol-free beer, which is now even more expensive because they've had to put duty on it to counteract the loss of revenue. And that's sort of how it goes, isn't it? And when you're paying £6.50 for a pint of beer with no alcohol in it, and you put whatever, I don't know what the duty is, 20%, 30%, no one's going to pay it. So it's sort of counterproductive, isn't it? But bringing it back to motorbikes. But I think it's quite nice now that you can go to a lot of these pubs, and the selection of alcohol-free drinks is actually fantastic, and the taste is superb. I was really shocked at that Heineken. I'd stopped drinking lagers because I think isn't there something odd about the brewing of these things now, where they use quite inferior and quick, very quick to brew chemicals in there, and they just give me a headache or whatever. But I didn't find that with that Heineken, and I was really surprised. I didn't feel rough at all, and I certainly didn't feel drunk. So yeah, it's worth checking out some of those. I don't think Heineken are going to give me a load of free samples, but I'd be interested to know if people are trying those alcohol-free drinks when you're going out on the bike, because also does it feel strange to go out and you can drink a couple of those, and is there a psychological effect of drinking those riding? Does it feel right or wrong, if that makes sense? You know what I mean? But I just thought, I thought it was just an interesting topic, as something that came to me the other day. I thought, I could go out and enjoy a beer now and not worry about it. But are we heading for some weird clash where everybody turns to alcohol-free drinks? Will we ever be encouraged to do that more? It's a bit like smoking, isn't it? No, we should have banned smoking years ago, shouldn't we, really, at the end of the day, because it's so damaging to your health. But we don't, because the loss of revenue to the government. So, strange, that one, isn't it? It's an odd world, isn't it? Right, there you go. I'm going to go off. I'm going to get some petrol in this thing. That's something I'm going to discuss on Saturday, about the fuel consumption of this bike. But yeah, do watch out for that on Saturday. So there's going to be another couple of videos coming on with the Bear. Well, I've got it for a couple of weeks. Right, look after yourself. Enjoy the sunny weather. I think it's going to get a little bit colder, but it's just beautiful, isn't it? It's just beautiful at the moment. And I will see you on Saturday. Right, take care.